Welcome to the Chesterfield Community Connections Meet the Candidates. I'm your host, David Weiss, an attorney with Sandberg, Phoenix, and Von Gontor. I am also a member of the Board of Directors for the Chesterfield Regional Chamber and its immediate past chairman. I have Nora Amato, President and CEO with the Chesterfield Regional Chamber, here with me this evening to get things started. Welcome, Nora. Thank you for putting this evening's program together. So tell us about tonight's program, Chesterfield Community Connections. What is it? How did it start? Who's the program for?
The Chesterfield Regional Chamber launched Chesterfield Community Connections last year. This series has 4 programs throughout the year, one each quarter, with the goal of sharing valuable information to Chesterfield area residents and businesses, as well as the wonderful resources Chesterfield has to offer. Watch for our quarterly Out and About magazine announcing our future Chesterfield Connections programs. Of course, tonight we're getting to know the candidates for Mayor of Chesterfield. We will have 3 additional programs in 2021. Our next edition of the program will be in May. It will focus on safety, with theft and security issues becoming concerning across the country. We want to make sure our residents are informed, taking proper precautions, and prepared for such incidents.
Tell us about the Blossom Bolt, another program of the Chesterfield Regional Chamber. I saw signs all over town over the weekend about a spring 5K, 10K run.
The Chamber's annual spring 5K, 10K run is the Blossom Bolt. We can run, walk, skip, put a team together with friends, whatever you'd like. The socially distanced staggered start will begin at 7 a.m. on Saturday, April 3rd. The 5K and 10K courses are out and back flat trails. The Chamber also hosts a half-mile Sprout Sprint, aka the Children's Fun Run for ages 10 and under. Plus, don't forget, the Easter Bunny will be in attendance, so you don't want to miss out. This event is sponsored by Bayer Crop Science and Orange Theory Fitness in Chesterfield. A portion of the proceeds to benefit Maryville University's Walker Scottish Rite Clinic.
Don't you also have a golf tournament coming up in April as well?
I'm so thrilled that warmer weather is upon us, like today, as that means our annual spring golf tournament is too. The 31st annual tournament is an all-inclusive day out at Persimmon Woods Golf Club. The tournament is open to members and non-members and includes 18 holes, games, food, and drinks on the course. And after play is a silent auction, lunch or dinner, and award ceremony. It's a great way to support our local businesses and have a fun day out of the office. So we hope you join us on April 26th, 2 tee times available for social distancing purposes. So call the Chamber to sign up.
Wow, the Chesterfield Chamber certainly has a lot going on. How about the ever-popular summer concert series? Are you able to host those this year?
Yes, exciting news. You'll see it in our upcoming Out and About magazine of all the lineup. The Chesterfield Regional Chamber Summer Concert Series is back again for its 34th year of concerts in Fowles Park, and it's going to be bigger than ever. We've extended the series by 4 concerts. So that's right, 14 concerts in Fowles Park from June 1st through August 31st. That's every Tuesday night with the exception of 4th of July week, plus 1 special weekend concert on August 20th to benefit one of our awesome chamber members, Archangels Foundation. As usual, the Chamber will have fireworks from J&M Displays on the first concert night and great vendors. The Commerce Bank Kids Zone, food and drink, available for purchase each and every night. We can't wait to see you in Fowles Park this summer. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and a special thank you to our sponsors, Maryville University, St. Louis Community College Wildwood, West News Magazine, Feature Group USA, Huntington Learning Center, Commerce Bank, and Progress 64 West. The heart of our Chesterfield Regional Chamber is our businesses, and we appreciate the continued support from the community. And now David will get us started on tonight's program.
Nora, thank you. On April 6th, voters will go to the polls to elect a mayor for the city of Chesterfield. The mayor serves for a 4-year term as the city's chief executive officer and official head of the city for all legal purposes. The mayor presides at all meetings of the city council and all ceremonial occasions. On behalf of the city, The mayor is charged with executing all contractual and legal documents approved by the City Council. Tonight we'll be talking with two of the mayoral candidates, incumbent Bob Nation and current council member Ben Keithley. Former council member Mike Casey could not be with us tonight. Mayor Nation, a 41-year resident of Chesterfield, began his service to the city in 2007 when he was elected as a council member representing Ward 4. He was sworn in as mayor in 2013 and is nearing the end of his second term. Mr. Keithley, a 23-year resident of Chesterfield, is finishing his second term as a Ward 2 City Council member. Mr. Casey, a former Ward 3 council member, has resided in Chesterfield since 1974 and served 18 years on the City Council. His final year on the council was 2016. Each candidate will be asked a series of questions, from those intended to help us get to know each man a bit better, to ones that address each candidate's unique qualifications, their thoughts on economic development and taxes, and their priorities if elected. This is not a debate. This is a forum. Each candidate will be asked the same questions and will be given the same specific length of time to respond, ranging from 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Each candidate will also be given a 1 minute to make a closing remark. Moderating tonight's forum is Kate Updegrove, managing editor of West Magazine. West News Magazine has served as West County's premier news source since 1996. Ms. Updegrove has been its editor since 2012.
Thank you, David. On behalf of the Chesterfield Regional Chamber and the sponsors of tonight's forum, gentlemen, I thank you for your participation. And thank you to our audience for tuning into this event. We have compiled a comprehensive list of questions aimed at getting to know each of our candidates better and to understand their individual, forward-thinking positions on the topics presented. However, time permitting, we would like your help as well. As you are viewing this broadcast, we encourage you to submit your own questions at any time. As time permits, we will get to as many of those questions as possible. To submit your questions, hover over the question mark icon to the right of your screen and click Ask a Question. If you don't see that icon, you may be in full screen mode. Simply hit the Escape key. Now, after all that bit of housekeeping, I would like to remind our candidates to focus on their qualifications. Focus on what you believe. Do not refer to your opponent's questions, or their replies. The order of tonight's questioning was selected at random, with Ben Keithley going first. We will rotate through that order throughout the forum. Without further ado, let's begin. Ben, can you tell us a bit more about your personal life? Are you married? Do you have any children, pets? We'd like to get to know you. You have 30 seconds to reply.
Thank you, and first off, I just want to say thank you to the Chamber for hosting this event and to all our sponsors tonight. This is a great opportunity to get to know everyone and for you to get to know us. I am married. I've lived in Chesterfield for 27 years. I have 2 children, Lark, who's 3 years old, and my son, Jay, who's 8 months old, and we have 2 dogs, Casey and Rookie.
Thank you, Ben. Bob, the same question to you. Are you married? Do you have children, grandchildren, pets?
Yes, I'm married to my wife Louise for over 40 years, almost 41. We have 3 sons. They're all in their 30s. They're each married. Each of those has 2 children, so we have 6 grandchildren, no pets. And Chesterfield has been a wonderful place to raise our family. We love it. And again, thank you to the Chamber for allowing us the opportunity to talk about our city and our positions. Happy to be here. Thank you.
The balance of tonight's questions were suggested by community members. Bob, the office of mayor is considered to be a part-time position. Realistically, and based on your hours of service as a public official, how many hours do you think it should take or will take to meet the needs of Chesterfield's residents and its growing number of businesses? Please try to include a ballpark figure in your response, and you have 30 seconds to reply.
Wow. Well, you're right. It's not supposed to be a full-time job, but being retired, I've I've spent a lot of time trying to attend to all of the needs and keep abreast of everything, work with staff, work with council members in order to serve our residents best. Realistically, it probably ought to be a half-time job, I would say, and the compensation has not changed in well over 30 years, not that I'm suggesting it should be.
Ben, again, that question to you. The office of mayor, again, being considered a part-time position, and based on your hours of public service, how many hours do you think it should take or will take to meet the needs of Chesterfield's residents and its growing number of businesses? Again, you have 30 seconds to reply.
Thank you, Kate. And based on my experience as being a council member, it's hard to provide that ballpark on a consistent basis. It's part-time some weeks you're providing overtime into it. You really are. You can spend, some weeks are busier than others. Some weeks have a lot of subdivision meetings. Some weeks have a lot more going on and a lot more to review. Our council meetings vary in length and to a large degree depending on what we have in front of us. But as mayor, I'm excited to spend more time and passionate about serving my community and giving more of my time to it.
Ben, the next question goes to you. Please share with us a bit of your profession, your day job, if you will, and how the skills that you use or in your career will assist you in your role as mayor. You have 30 seconds to reply.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope that the audience members and the residents of Chesterfield won't hold it against me that I am a lawyer. But I think that serves me well in this capacity. It certainly has served me well in the council. The most valuable thing, I've obviously represented clients on issues regarding land use, zoning, planning, and other municipal concerns. But most valuable in what I've learned is that you really learn when representing clients and fiercely advocating for them, you learn who your client is, you learn who you're representing. And that's kept me focused in my duty as a council member to make sure I'm always representing the taxpayers and residents of Chesterfield above all else.
Thank you for your answer. Bob, I know you're retired, but what skills did you use during your career that you use as mayor now that assist you in that capacity?
Right.
You again have 30 seconds to reply.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I graduated from the University of Arizona in 1972. As most people, most male students back in that area were in ROTC. So when I graduated, I was also commissioned as second lieutenant, went on active duty in the Army, and stayed on active duty for a number of years, continued in the reserves. An officer's job is to accept responsibility. You learn leadership skills. I learned to provide for the personnel under me, and I believe the same thing applies at our city of Chesterfield.
Excellent. Thank you both for sharing a little bit about your background. Chesterfield residents are known for enjoying and wanting the benefits of both development, restaurants, stores, entertainment venues, churches, schools, as well as green space, including neighborhoods that they feel comfortable in and secure in. During the nearly 2-year Envision Chesterfield master plan process, residents were asked what they wanted from the city in this regard. In your opinion, what role should the city play in maintaining a healthy green ratio between development and green space? Bob, this question goes to you, so I would ask you what that looks like to you, and I'll give you 2 minutes to respond to that detailed question.
Sure, thank you. Well, first of all, each and every project that comes to the city for development, there's a long list of parameters that are necessary. One is a minimum open space requirement. There are setback requirements, buffer zone requirements, and as you say, the Envision Chesterfield, the comprehensive plan, each and every development must meet the criteria established there, as well as the Unified Development Code criteria. So it's a long list of requirements, and petitioners, developers, they come to the city staff, work with the staff, and then the item goes before the Planning Commission. There's a public hearing, and then after that it comes to the Planning and Public Works Committee, which consists of 4 council members, and then ultimately to the City Council for final approval or disapproval. There's a lot can be said about this, but you could say the Envision Chesterfield, the comprehensive plan, is really is a vision for what the city is planning to be. So if if a question were to be, and not that this is the question, it's not, but it's somewhat related, it seems, that what is the vision of Chesterfield? Well, simply, if you were to say we will follow the comprehensive plan. That is a vision. Now, obviously, there are other aspects to that. One could talk about a strategic plan, which the city does not have yet. That has been discussed. There's been no consensus on the council. I personally believe that we should make a nominal investment for a professional facilitator in order that we come up with a strategic plan that will assist us and guide us as we look to the future. So we have a great future. I'm very optimistic about it.
Ben, with the same criteria to be considered, in your opinion, what role should the city play in maintaining a healthy ratio between development and green space? What does that look like to you? And again, you have 2 minutes to reply.
Thank you, Kate. Obviously, the city has a direct interest and a direct ability to influence green space through the expansion and development of our parkland. I'm an advocate for expanding our parks and our park amenities. I've supported those initiatives in the past. You know, we should continue doing that, and part of that goes with creating trails. Every development, though, presents us with new opportunities in which to complement our city, not only in the services that are going to be coming in, but also with green space. Development should be looked at as an opportunity to complement our city in all regards, including green space. Businesses are going to want to be here if they know the residents want to spend time with their services and in their developments. And I think that is an important thing to understand in that partnership between the city and the development and the developers. Developments have canopy requirements. We should always be emphasizing those and make sure that we're not making exceptions on canopy requirements. Where we have possibilities and we can tie these into our trail networks and to our park systems, we should be doing that. I think that plays a positive role and allows our residents to really interact and really take ownership and have the full benefit of those services. The other thing that we can do is encouraging their own green space, whether it's using pocket parks, including benches, dog parks. There can be green interactive space within these developments, particularly these larger developments. And as we move to redeveloping an urban core and developing that area around the city, these are places that residents are going to want to spend time. And we should be looking to developers, and they'll want to as well, promoting those type of green spaces and those type of interactive places where everything can kind of come together.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for answering that question. Chesterfield has done an excellent job in attracting businesses from large corporations to small enterprises. It has retail centers and several unique entertainment options, but the last 12 months have put a strain on all of these in various ways. One of our write-in questions, the question that was asked was regarding the county's mandate on masks and indoor dining and public gatherings and their county's response to COVID-19. So I would ask you, with your own thoughts in mind, but knowing what the county asks of you, what do you think the city should be doing today in 2021 and moving forward in supporting local businesses and promoting economic development? And we will start with Ben on this question.
Thank you, and I think this is a very pressing question, and it should be one that's on all of our minds. How do we continue supporting businesses and transition back to a healthy, vibrant economy that Chesterfield has enjoyed? We certainly want to see that happen. One thing that we can certainly do is by lessening the red tape that our businesses have to deal with in going through. They have huge restrictions and huge problems that they faced in dealing and combating with COVID, in trying to maintain safe environments while also serving their communities, while also turning their profit and just trying to stay in business. They've had to sacrifice a lot. They've had to accept standards, and they've had to accept conditions that are not conducive to doing great business. Whatever the city can do, and I've supported it, is one thing that we've done is we've rolled back those restrictions. We've allowed our businesses to work directly with our planning director in order to create amenities that are better for outdoor dining, for curbside pickups, for takeout, to promote outside activity and those types of things. We should continue doing those things. I think that COVID, we've learned a valuable lesson in this, that when government gets out of the way of our businesses, they can thrive even more. Once we no longer have the burdensome problems that have been put on us by the pandemic, we can hopefully continue to get back to that thriving economy and learn the lessons that when we get out of the way and when we allow businesses to do what they need to, and with sign packages, with outdoor dining, we can create a city that's going to be more enjoyable, and we can also create a more business-friendly environment. I'd like to see us make some of these changes more permanent, allowing businesses to continue their curbside delivery. Whatever we can do to let businesses, to promote our businesses in terms of fostering an easier environment for them to do business, we should continue doing that.
Bob, the same question to you then. With the county restrictions in mind, what would you do to help support local businesses and to promote economic development? And again, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Okay. As Councilmember Keithley said, we relaxed the guidelines and allowed the businesses to obtain relief from the normal rules and red tape. We put that in effect for initially a 6-month period. It was extended for another 6-month period, which I believe runs out at the end of July, or in the month of July. I believe we can certainly, if need be, extend that again, which would allow that, subject to county regulations. Incidentally, the county has just been relaxing more regulations, within the last couple of days, so that's very encouraging. I think personally, I think a lot of this stuff will take place on its own as more and more people receive the vaccinations. It seems like the infection rates are going down. To be honest with you, beyond what the thing that we've already talked about, I don't know what else we can do. I'd be happy, if there are things, I'd be happy to entertain, ideas as to what we can do to further stimulate the business. There are a lot of things on the horizon, a lot of changes. The city has, probably weathered the pandemic a little bit better than we thought. We also received the $3.265 million in CARES Act fund directly or through St. Louis County. That was federal CARES Act funding. So that was another thing that helped. I understand that the passing of the stimulus bill, 1.9, if that actually goes forward, there's a provision in there that will actually assist local governments like Chesterfield tremendously. So that doesn't directly relate to the businesses, but I'm all open ears to any other ideas that residents or businesses may have that we can help.
Gentlemen, again, thank you for answering those questions. Over the last few years, the city has seen a decline in revenue from local sales tax, driven in part by the popularity of internet shopping. This is not something that's just unique to Chesterfield. This is happening across municipalities. Should this decline continue, what are some options that, in your opinion, the city should pursue? Is it an implementation of a use or a wayfare tax, perhaps a personal property tax, or other options? You have 2 minutes to respond, and Bob, this question starts with you.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, as I mentioned in answering, responding to the previous question, there is a possibility of additional revenue through the federal government. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but if that comes through, that will kind of change the whole landscape, to be honest with you. But no doubt, implementation of wayfare tax. Missouri is one of 2 states that does not yet have that, and as you said, the lack of a wayfare tax or taxation on internet sales is harmful. I don't view that as a tax increase or a new tax. It would merely be a recoupment of the taxes, the revenue that we have not received over a period of time as more and more people purchase more, services, goods and services online. I think back in September, the council in a F&A committee of the whole tasked our staff to come back with a list of alternative revenue sources that would have included a property tax. I believe Councilmember Keithley also voted for that. The mayor cannot put forth a tax on his own. It would have to be discussed and voted on by the council, and then depending on what kind of a tax it is, almost in all cases, it would ultimately be put forward to the voters. So I think we need to be creative. I'm very confident that over the years our city has been very flexible in making sure that our expenditures are less than our revenues, and so I don't expect anything to change in that regard.
Ben, the question to you then, should a decline in sales tax continue, what are some options that, in your opinion, the city should pursue? And again, we would address the implementation of a wayfare tax or an internet use tax, or perhaps a personal property tax, or other options. And you have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Kate. And what we're really talking about is an anticipated decline. Right now, it depends what years you look at. From 2015 to 2019, the overall city revenues have gone up. From 2016, they're more flat. From 2017 to 2019, they're down. 2020 obviously is a bad metric on which to base revenues and sales taxes, particularly with all the decreased economic activity. Residents are concerned about this. I'm happy to listen to anything staff puts forward, and I encourage them to come forward with proposals on what we can do financially, whether it's budget cuts, but ultimately, I don't support new taxes at this point. I don't see the evidence that that's necessary in our city, particularly a property tax. That's been put forth at a council meeting by my opponent. It was put forth and defended in a letter to West News Magazine on October 21st, where it was stated this is not regarding COVID. This is regarding long-term trends that my opponent perceives. And then it was done again in the Citizen newsletter. It was put forward. So residents are concerned that this is going to be a real problem going forward, and they should be. At this time, I would be concerned if we didn't see all this growth potential in Chesterfield. The reality is that Chesterfield has been able to make up the difference by continued growth and continued economic activity. If I sat here in 1997 or 1998 and I told you that Chesterfield Mall would be pretty much closed and be done, and the city is rolling along fine, you wouldn't believe me. But yet here we are right now. There's more development going on, and Chesterfield Mall's redevelopment particularly provides a great opportunity for us to continue expanding and continue to expanding our revenue sources without adding taxes.
Thank you. As Chesterfield continues to develop unique opportunities for dining, shopping, and entertainment, it will increase the amount of visitors it attracts, and in so doing, the burden placed on local services, including the city's exceptional police force. As a candidate for mayor, do you have any concerns about traffic, police protection, or other strains that these new developments might inadvertently bring to the city? How do you think the city should or can prepare to meet those challenges? Ben, the question is to you, and you have 2 minutes to reply.
Thank you. Yeah, I absolutely do have those concerns as we go forward with new developments, and we all should have those concerns. Overdevelopment is something that we want to be conscious of. We don't want to do that. At the same time, the city needs to continue expanding, but we need to continue doing that in a responsible manner. That means traffic studies need to be done so we know the full impact of what new developments are going to bring traffic-wise. But public safety is a key component to this. As the city grows and grows and grows, so does the capabilities that not only our police force needs to deal with, but so does our court system. We need to make sure we continue upgrading and continue enhancing our court system, and also giving our police officers the needed resources that they need to continue dealing with the growth and continued development of the city. As developments go forward, our court system also needs to adjust to that. As we bring in new businesses, we bring in new potential for crime. We bring in new shoplifting, and we've seen these increases in shoplifting as we brought in new developments in the past. This isn't unique to Chesterfield. Now's the right time to start making these changes. Now's the right time to start implementing the changes and make sure that we have a police force that's capable and able to deal with the new strains that will be put on our city. Now's the time to start making those changes in our court system. Now's the time where we can start, if we need to have prosecutors, if we need to increase e-filing systems, if we need to include the resources that are going to if we need to increase the resources that are going to our court, we want to start doing that so we are ready when these new developments come online. The one thing we can't do is subsidize these developments. If we're subsidizing these developments, we're in a situation where the community is supporting the businesses rather than the businesses supporting the community. that's when they become drains. As we bring in new developments, we should be looking at these new developments to be partners with the city going forward in increasing economic activity, not be relying on subsidies and taking money from our taxpayers.
Thank you for your answer to the question. Bob, I would direct the same question to you. As a candidate for mayor, do you have any concerns about traffic, police protection, or other strains that new developments into the Chesterfield area might bring inadvertently to the city? And how do you think the city can or should prepare to meet those challenges? You have 2 minutes to respond.
Yeah. Thank you very much. First of all, I got to quickly say that I factually disagree with Councilmember Keithley's response to the previous question. Our revenues are down in 2019 prior to the 5 years before. This is even before COVID, so that was factually incorrect. But on to this question here. You know, the term growing government comes to mind with this question, and I think none of us, none of the council members nor myself or our staff are in favor of growing government. However, as our city grows, our responsibilities grow. The street miles that our Public Works Department needs to maintain the streets, replace the sidewalks, that grows. As Councilmember Keithley mentioned, as retail, commercial areas grow, the necessity for law enforcement to patrol these areas does increase, whether there's an increase in revenue or not. There seemed to be an insinuation of tax incentives for new development. I don't know where that came from. Way back in 2013, there's not been an incentive provided to development, since I was elected mayor. Back in 2013, developments of the 2 outlet malls that were approved in 2012 both came online. I was vocal against the incentive that was provided for Blue Valley at the time, and there has been no tax incentive for any development in Chesterfield during my tenure. I'm, primarily predisposed to be against public financing of private development. However, I will say that any kind of a proposal should be looked at with an open mind.
Let's stay on that topic for just a quick minute, and let's look at some of these questions that have been coming in from some of our listeners this evening. If you can bear with me just a second while I get to the right question that I wanted to build on the last comments. So you had just spoken, Mayor Nation, about the TDDs, CIDs, TIFs, et cetera, that are used to subsidize business to locate here. And you pointed out that there have been no new ones. We might also point out that Chesterfield Valley was developed from one of the most successful TIFs in the region, so there's that to be considered. But the question is, how many subsidies to businesses to locate here does Chesterfield have currently? How many TDDs, CIDs, TIFs, et cetera? And explain, if you would, why you would or would not want to use more of these tax programs in Chesterfield. I'll direct this question first to you, Ben.
Thank you. And I'm glad you brought up the idea of TDDs here, because that was left out in the previous response. Since the Blue Valley CID came on, as my opponent referred to in 2013, we have had new TDDs. In fact, the mayor worked with Steve Stanger to expand and extend another 15 years of the Valley TDD, and that money went to fund a private ice rink. That ice rink has gone up in the Valley right now. And furthermore, there's been more development. We had a proposed private dome in which the mayor voted to use around $3 million of taxpayer money from our Parks Department to buy the land for that private dome to sit on. Ultimately, luckily, that proposal didn't go through, but the 15-year tax extension did, and now when you shop in the Valley, you're paying higher taxes because of that. The special tax districts are here, and we're dealing with them, and we are going to continue getting these proposals. The fact is that Chesterfield is remarkably different than it was when we did the TIF funding. At that time, we were coming off of a natural disaster in the flood of '93. The city did not have the same resources it has today. The city did not have the same character necessarily that it had today. Today, we're an attractive place to do business. People want to come here. And I don't think the city should be bidding against itself to bring new development here. I think developers want to be here. We want to work with developers. We want to make it easy to do business in Chesterfield, but we don't want to have to pay them for that privilege. Ultimately, if Chesterfield is an attractive place to live, Chesterfield is going to be an attractive place to do business. I want to continue focusing on making Chesterfield an attractive place to live. That means putting residents first. That means doing the things that make residents want to be here and taking care of our residents. It doesn't mean subsidizing businesses, as we've done in the past and as my opponent has supported in the past.
Again, Bob, the question now goes to you, and we'd like you to give you the chance to speak to explaining why you would or would not want to use tax incentive programs, and specifically the ones that we referenced here in the question from the viewer, the subsidies such as TDDs, transportation districts, community improvement districts or CIDs, and TIFs, tax incremental financing.
I think nomenclature is important here. When you say subsidies, first of all, I again factually completely, disagree with almost everything Councilmember Keithley just stated. As far as the TDD, and he referenced, the mayor, first of all, the Chesterfield Valley TDD is a separate political entity from the city of Chesterfield. Completely separate checkbooks. The mayor of Chesterfield, as well as the city administrator, are members of the Chesterfield Valley TDD, as is whoever happens to be the county executive and one of their assistants. So when Councilmember Keithley said that I worked with, Steve Stenger to increase or establish a new TDD, that is absolutely factually incorrect. It is true that it was extended, the 3/8 cent sales tax. There was no increase in sales tax. When this is in order to support the ice rink at the west end of the valley. There was an economic feasibility study called Ballard King, an economic impact statement affecting Chesterfield Valley. So there was an awful lot of analysis to analyze whether or not it was justifiable for the TDD to support this. As far as any insinuations of other tax incentives, et cetera, it's just completely, absolutely false. It's very disappointing that to have these assertions made that are meant to mislead the public, actually. Some of these other things called NIDs, Neighborhood Improvement Districts, these actually have enabled a couple of our older condominium complexes to make badly needed improvements on their roads. Those residents themselves fund that. The city doesn't fund that. A TDD and a CID are a little bit different. TDDs are normally associated with infrastructure-related items, whereas CIDs are a little bit more open-minded. Not open-minded, but a little more liberal.
Thank you both for taking time to answer that question from one of our viewers. Now we'll get back to some of the questions that we had prepared from citizen comments ahead of time. So, one of the questions that came in, and I think it's a good question since both of you are actively working with the city at the moment, what do you think is working well in Chesterfield city government right now? And if elected mayor or if re-elected mayor, what would you change? You have 2 minutes to respond. And please do try to keep it on what you would change, what you think is working well right now.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry, we jumped around a bit here. Let's start with Bob, please.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if I would make a lot of changes. First of all, I will say, part of the question, working well with Chesterfield City government right now. I am extremely, and this is probably related to a lot of different questions that could be asked. I'm extremely appreciative of the Chesterfield staff, all of our employees. I think it's important that they feel respected and appreciated. And I think if they know then they believe that they are respected and appreciated and valued, that will only be reflected in the service that they provide to our residents. So I right now I wouldn't change a thing. I think unfortunately, no two council members or even myself and any council member is in agreement with each other on each and every issue that comes before us. I don't believe that would be healthy if that were the case. But we have had a consistent negative, we've had council members vote against restoration of police salaries just this past year. As a matter of fact, my opponent is one of those. So when he says that he's in favor of supportive of law enforcement, we have an item there where he voted against restoration of police salaries just this past summer. Honestly, what I would like to change is get these council members, some of them, the ones that have been divisive, to get honest and honestly evaluate the things that are before us, as opposed to being influenced by political optics and out-of-town influences.
Ben, I would ask the same question then of you. What do you think is working well in Chesterfield city government right now, and what would you change if elected mayor? And again, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. And first off, let me address that I'm influenced by my constituents. I'm influenced by the residents of Chesterfield. That's who I think of when I make every single vote. The vote that my opponent has alluded to, I voted to reinstate the police salaries. What I voted against was an amendment that took that money directly from the residents out of the fireworks display. There were other sources that we could have funded that from, and I wanted to see that happen. I did ultimately vote to restore the police salaries because that was the right thing to do, and I do support our law enforcement officers. I also, at that time, made a motion to, or shortly after that, decide that the police officers were going to take that sacrifice, which was a heroic and courageous thing to do, that I wanted to see elected officials do the same and the rest of the city government do the same. Unfortunately, I was stopped by my opponent and his willing accomplices on the city council. In terms of what I would change in the city, I think public safety is a big issue that we need to address going forward. We've already touched upon it and brought it up, but I would like to see significant changes to our court system. We can do better. I don't think our court system is equipped right now to meet the needs of what is going to be a continually growing city. I don't think our court system right now is equipped for diversionary programs and making sure that we stop people who we can prevent from becoming repeat offenders. And we're certainly not equipped at dealing with the people who are already in our system who are repeat offenders. This was addressed in my last public health and safety meeting. Chief Johnson brought up the fact that we need to do better, and this is part of my public health and safety committee's overall crime prevention strategy, that we need to do better with ending plea deals and getting convictions on a lot of these repeat offenders. In terms of what's going well in the city, there are things that are going well in our city. And I don't want to let too far go forward. Public Works never gets its due. I think one thing that I'm proud of what our city does is our Public Works Department and our director in responding to residents' needs. This is a direct example of what we're doing well and how government best serves people when we're most responsive. And I think when you compare our roads to county roads, there's a clear distinction in how the city of Chesterfield responds to its residents. That's good.
Gentlemen, thank you again. I will remind you that we really want to get to know each of you in this forum. And so if you can talk about your thought processes going forward and what you would bring to the table, and spend a little less time talking about what your opponents have done or in your perception don't do enough of. Let's get back to our questions. And I'd like to take one from one of our viewers right now, because we just talked about the city growing. It was mentioned that a continually growing city, that comment was made by Ben just now. And one of our viewers has asked the question in regard to housing and in regard to apartments. And I'm sorry, but my screen here with the questions on it just jumped, so my question just jumped. But they wanted to know if it was part of the Chesterfield master plan to, in essence, develop vertically with more apartment buildings and less neighborhoods. And of course, Chesterfield is an older city, so it doesn't have as much space to develop the single-family home neighborhoods that it is well known for, those beautiful, lush neighborhoods. So developing vertically makes sense to some regard, I would imagine. But they don't care what I think, they care what you think. So can you talk to us about the city's development and your plans for residential growth? What you would envision, what you would like to see if you are elected mayor or re-elected mayor as the city continues to grow. 2 minutes, and we will go with Ben for this question.
Thank you. I think that when you're talking about development and high-density developments and high-rise and vertically developing, that is stuff that needs to be limited to the urban core. I don't support putting high density developments or burdensome commercial and certainly nothing more than that in high rise and developing vertically in and around our neighborhoods. We need to preserve the integrity of our neighborhoods. That's that's a vital component of making sure that Chesterfield stays an attractive place to live above all else. That's an integral part of putting residents first. When we talk about the urban core, we have to acknowledge the fact that there are developers with their own interests coming in and developing this land, and that we do have that zoned as urban core development. Now, I think what we will see going forward as a result of the pandemic and as a result of just the realities of developing in Chesterfield and what we want as a city is I think we will see less vertical development in that. I think we'll see people developing more outward than straight up. People are looking for more spaces, whether that's an office building or providing more space in other types of development. Vertical development tends to pack people together and doesn't look as good going forward. So I think naturally that will get taken care of in itself. But the urban core development, we do need to be careful here. If we're talking about adding 4,000 or 5,000 different unit apartments in brand new developments, that's going to significantly change the quality and the character of Chesterfield. We need to be prepared for that. That's going to present us more challenges if that takes place. And we need to make sure we're working with developers to make sure that if we're developing and they're going forward, that we're doing it responsibly and that developments, first and foremost, are staying away from our neighborhoods and adhering to our zoning and our master comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Ben. Bob, I would ask the same question of you. As Chesterfield continues to grow and we look for more space for residences as well as for businesses, and that idea of apartments and growing vertically, what would you want for the city? What is it that you would work toward in your wish for the city moving forward? You have 2 minutes to reply.
Right. Well, absolutely. Preservation of our residential neighborhoods is utmost. I've walked this city a number of times, and I guess the first time I ran for mayor and got to cover the entire city, it came to me, I said, the most precious asset of our city is our residential neighborhoods. So we need to protect and I guess promote responsible and compatible development of these areas that surround our residential neighborhoods. A good example of that was with the Preserve Shetler proposed apartment complex off of Shetler Road. A group of residents known as Preserve Shetler, they came forth and they voiced their concerns that they didn't think this was compatible zoning, as was borne out in the revision to the comprehensive plan. The technicality of it, there was no transition zone provided between the single-family residence and the multifamily that would have gone there. So this is a good example how the city did their job, revised the comp plan, and that problem or potential problem is precluded in the future. Having said the fact that our residential neighborhoods are our most valuable asset, if our city consisted solely of residential neighborhoods, we wouldn't have the revenues to pay for the services that our residents and businesses deserve and expect. As far as the comprehensive plan, the urban core, it's a fact of life that in most municipalities, cities like Chesterfield, in the central location, or call it urban core, that is where you expect the higher density development. There are things that are done to accommodate traffic, things as double left-hand turn lanes, and I could go on, but I think I'm a little bit out of time.
Thank you so much for being mindful of the time. We'll get back to some of the prepared questions now, and I'd like for you, Bob, we'll start with you because you'd be next, I think, in the rotation, although adding questions in, it gets a little confusing. But we would like you to please provide 2 goals you wish to accomplish if you were elected Mayor of Chesterfield, or I should say re-elected Mayor of Chesterfield, and you have 2 minutes to respond.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to continue the transparency that we have dramatically increased over the last 4 or 5 years. I want to continue to protect our residential neighborhoods and allow compatible zoning in these areas. The the things, you talk about economic development. Now this may be a little bit antiquated. I know a lot of cities are not as fortunate as us. We're such a desirable area that development comes to us because it's such a desirable place for developers to come and invest their money. So that's the reason why we don't have to have our hand out, and we have not and do not plan to do that. So economic development comes to us naturally. We can see it going on. We have the Wild Horse Village development, $600+ million development going over adjacent to Chesterfield Mall. We don't know what's going to happen with Chesterfield Mall, but I think our job through our planning and development services, our planning commission, et cetera, is to facilitate and process the petitions put forth by developers. Goals, I think we continue to do the same thing. We have some specific goals. We need to get a plan in place for how we're going to develop the park property across from the Veterans Honor Park. We're going to be expanding the riparian trail, making a connection to the levee trail. So all of these things are in process. I don't know if I would call those goals. Those are planned projects that will be accomplished. So I think we just need to allow development at its normal pace. We do not need to accelerate the pace of development, because I think if you do, then you're at risk perhaps of creating problems.
Ben, we would ask the same question then of you. If you could provide 2 specific goals you wish to accomplish if you were elected mayor of Chesterfield, and you have 2 minutes to respond.
Well, and I think I've provided my first goal that I would say would be to improve our public safety. It would be continually supporting our law enforcement officers and making sure they're equipped for the increasing demands that our city is going to face. As we become an older city, as we become a bigger city, those continue to pile up and pile up and pile up. And our police officers need to be equipped for that. And our court system, like I've said before, needs to be able to be equipped to deal with that and to support the police officers in making sure that we're converting on the arrest. It doesn't do us any good if police officers are arresting people and then our court system is catching and releasing people. So we need to make sure that we are able to process these cases going forward and improve our justice system and make those necessary changes. The second goal that I would say would be that we need to develop responsibly, but we need to do so without subsidies. We can't continue to keep going from tax district to tax district, special tax district, and increasing taxes on our residents and putting that money directly into the pockets of developers. I don't want to see that continue. If Chesterfield is an attractive place to live, Chesterfield will be an attractive place to do business. Our residents are our single greatest asset, and that's what drives development to Chesterfield. We don't need to sit there offering money and outbidding ourselves as developers come in. Make no mistake, there will be hands out for redeveloping our urban core. And we want to make sure that development doesn't go to developer private expenses. We can't be handing out corporate welfare and going forward on proposals that take money away from our residents and away from us providing and maintaining the great level and quality of services that our residents expect. Our money and our tax dollars should be benefiting the residents to make sure Chesterfield stays an attractive place to live above all else.
Thank you. You just talked about businesses coming in and residents' needs. Let's look at what happens when folks are at home during COVID, trying to work from home, and students are trying to do school from home. A reader, you can see I'm in the newspaper business. A viewer asked the question about the increased need of high-speed internet services, and they want to know if you have any plans to encourage investment into fiber optic internet connections in Chesterfield neighborhoods and business districts. So you have 2 minutes to respond, and we will go to Ben.
Thank you. And when we're looking at high-speed internet, I think suburban areas provide quite a unique challenge. Because, and especially a place like Chesterfield, where we have a diverse community that has so many different kinds of neighborhoods. Neighborhoods have different expectations. They have different characteristics. They have different things that the residents of that particular neighborhood are going to want and put up with in terms of expanding 5G capability, fiber optic, high-speed internet. We need to make sure that our staff and our code are good going forward in order to provide a consistent standard that our city can adhere to as this stuff goes in and goes online. So we need to make sure that we have staff who are knowledgeable in converting on these special use permits that are oftentimes required to put in these new high-speed internet capabilities. But more importantly, I think as we keep putting in new infrastructure, the original infrastructure that Chesterfield has put in obviously wasn't done with the anticipation of 5G internet and needing to put internet extenders and routers and whatever other equipment goes into it on every street corner. As we put in and as we replace new infrastructure and public infrastructure, one thing that would be responsible of us to do is making sure we're doing so in a way that's going to be conducive to allowing these capabilities to go in at a cheaper and at a less burdensome cost to our, less burdensome, as less of a burden to our residents. They don't want to see, if we don't have to put in big refrigerator boxes and we can do something, if we have the right kind of utility pole or light pole, we should be focused on doing that. That way people don't have to deal with these things in their neighborhoods.
Bob, the question would go to you then. With increased need for high-speed internet services, do you have any plans to encourage investment into fiber optic internet connections in Chesterfield neighborhoods and business districts? And you would have 2 minutes to reply.
Thank you. As far as the city of Chesterfield providing incentives to cable providers to provide this service, absolutely not. I believe market conditions will dictate whether these vendors, these businesses, the industry finds it advantageous for them to make the investment in order to provide the services. Some of these things that may be a little bit unrelated, but perhaps it is not as unrelated as it might seem. The cable franchise industry right now, they're seeking reductions in cable franchise fees that further reduce the revenues to our municipalities. This is ongoing in Jefferson City right now. And so generally speaking, I'm not a real techno whatever thing. I believe our staff is thoroughly technically knowledgeable about these things. And, as these things become available, I think Chesterfield is an area that it makes sense for these providers to want the business. So they will make the investment, and hopefully they will see to it that reasonable cable franchise fees in order to make use of the rights of way within our city are provided. That's I don't have a whole lot to say on this, but I think things like this will be taken care of. On the other hand, the more rural areas of our state have a real need. As a matter of fact, I know that there is legislation ongoing in Jefferson City right now to try to provide these amenities out in the more rural areas. But right now, I think that we have high-speed cable and video available.
Gentlemen, you now have 1 minute to make a closing remark. Remember, we want to hear about you and your vision for Chesterfield, so please refrain from commenting on your opponent. Tell us what your goals, your priorities, your hopes, whatever it is that's on your mind for the city of Chesterfield, and each of you have 1 minute to reply. Thank you so much.
In the past hour or so, you've gotten to know us a bit better. We may differ on a number of key issues, but I stand by my positions. I sincerely appreciate the Chamber of Commerce for giving us this opportunity to share our views, and especially thank you, the residents who really make Chesterfield such a great place to live. Exciting things are happening in our city, and I want to continue to be a part of these formative times. I greatly appreciate the citizen input to the comprehensive plan and our Parks Master Plan. And I'd also like to express appreciation to the many volunteers who give their time and expertise to make Chesterfield the envy of so many communities. I value Chesterfield as much as you do, and that's the main reason I want to continue to serve. I plan to continue to spend your tax dollars wisely as if they were my own. I've said it a number of times, our most precious asset is our neighborhoods, and I always keep that thought in my mind. I also want to keep the decisions made for Chesterfield in Chesterfield and not be beholden to outside influence. In summary, I believe I have the experience, knowledge, proven record, and most of all, the desire to continue to be your mayor through the challenging times ahead. Thank you for your time and interest, and thank you for your vote on April 6th.
Ben, we would go to you now.
Thank you. And I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and all the sponsors tonight for hosting this event. Most of all, I want to thank those of you who have tuned in. Local government should be responsive, and that's best done with engaged and active citizens. In the words of former Mayor John Nations, being mayor was a job I dearly wanted, and I worked hard every day so that the residents would be proud to put me there. You want a mayor that you can be proud of, just like you want a city that you can be proud of. I was fortunate to grow up in Chesterfield, and I hope my children, Lark and Jay, will say the same thing. If Chesterfield is to remain an exceptional city, we have to remember why we founded Chesterfield in the first place. We became a city because our residents wanted more say in local government. We became a city because residents like you were tired of having outside interests put above their own. I'm asking you to renew your commitment to prioritizing residents. A successful city starts with one basic question. Do people want to live here? An attractive place to live is also an attractive place to do business. Property tax, tax districts, regulation, crowded development, those don't make us better. Subsidizing development does not make Chesterfield any more attractive. Businesses want to be here because of you, the strong residents and the strong community you have built. Lower taxes, preserving neighborhoods, and public safety. Those are the foundations of a strong community where people will always want to live. After all, it's why you chose to live here. That's why I'm running for mayor, because putting residents first was the foundation that made our community strong. It's a principle still worth building on. I hope to have your vote on April 6th.
Hi, David Weiss again. I want to thank both of the candidates for mayor of the city of Chesterfield, Mayor Bob Nation and candidate Ben Keithley, both candidates, for mayor for participating in this first ever Chesterfield Regional Chamber Mayoral Candidate Forum. I believe it's been very informative, and I hope that you have found it to be as well. On behalf of the Chesterfield Regional Chamber, I also wish to thank Kate Updegrove, the editor of West News Magazine, for moderating this evening's program. I thought she did a wonderful job, and I know you share in the applause for her doing so. I also wish to thank, by the way, it is a mayoral candidate forum, and the vote is to take place on April 6th. Please do everything in your power to vote. It is the epicenter of our democracy, even at a municipal election. I also wish to thank the sponsors for tonight's program who have underwritten the costs and been able to bring this program to you. St. Louis Community College Wildwood, Maryville University, West News Magazine, Feature Group USA, Huntington Learning Center, Commerce Bank, and Progress 64 West. The heart of Chesterfield is its business, and we appreciate the continued support of our businesses by the community at large. Our community businesses need and appreciate your support, and we look forward to you continuing to buy local. Please stay safe, and from the studios of Feature Group USA, good night and thank you.
Tell your story, promote your products, communicate with your employees and customers vividly, dynamically, and powerfully. Whether it's a company video, recruitment video, online training, or live meeting, Feature Group can help you, from scripting to highly polished finished production. Whether it's live or on demand, we have the skills and equipment to wow your audience and drive your message home. Feature Group USA, the one-stop shop for all your broadcasting needs.